Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Senior News Editor at Retail Insider. Joining me today is Rocco Matteo, who is Managing Partner of E3 Consulting in Montreal. Thanks, Rocco, for joining us today.
Thank you, Mario. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, let's talk about Montreal is known for its retail sector. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening there in the market in that city. What are your thoughts in general about the state of the retail sector in Montreal?
Well, for starters, for everybody who thinks Montreal's cold, it's kind of hot these days. So we'll start with that. So
Yeah.
that's good for business. But unfortunately, in the last few months, I mean, we've definitely seen a slowdown in the retail sales in the Montreal area. I don't think it's any different from any other city in Canada, but particularly for Montreal, what I've seen is that definitely the interest rates have been having a huge impact on the high priced goods. Example, in the automotive industry, I see that I've spoken to some CEOs in that industry, and they've seen quite a slowdown in the month of January and trickling into February as well. So having a car at interest rates of 6-7% is quite a purchase. When we look at the shopping malls, and I visited several in the last few weeks, unfortunately, I do see still a trend of some empty locals in the malls. I think I do see some downtrend in the traffic. Spoke to some CEOs of some national brands here in Canada, and sales are kind of flat. So they're kind of working a lot on the margin, making sure that they're protecting their profitability, looking at their expenses. But foot traffic is not what it used to be if we compare it to 2, 3 years ago. Definitely, there's a downward risk to traffic in the coming months as well. So the future is kind of uncertain right now.
So when you're looking at what's happening in the market, a lot of it is you think is driven by consumers these days and their, I don't know, fears or concerns about rising costs and interest rates, etc.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of fear, and I've looked at some surveys. A lot of fear. People, we're just coming out of the Christmas spending, and a lot of people received all their credit card spendings for the month of January. So they're kind of being very, very cautious. It was kind of a surprise where the Bank of Canada raised the rate again for another 0.25%. We don't know when that's going to end. There's a 50-50 chance of rates being cut towards the end of the year. So consumers are being very cautious, and they're being very cautious. And the people that do have to spend are actually paying the top dollar as well. So there's not really much of a break on that. If you're looking for a vacation this summer, you're not gonna spend half the price of what it used to be. Actually, the prices have gone up. So it's all a question of supply and demand. But I think the discount retailers are doing very well. So in the grocery industry, you look at the discount retailers are doing extremely well. I actually just spoke to a friend of mine who was a store manager in a retail banner, and his sales are up 20-30%. He manages a discount store. So
Yeah.
anything to do with discount, anything to do with like quality and getting a good price for the quality you're paying, I think those retailers are doing very well. So the ones that are nimble and agile and making those changes, I think they're succeeding in the very short term. Yeah.
Let's talk about downtown Montreal. Obviously, there's a lot of retail in downtown malls, with street front and shopping centers. Uh, how is that fared and faring right now?
It's getting a little better. I mean, I don't have the number of the percentage of people that have gone back to the office downtown Montreal because you are gearing to the downtown office people, right? Because on the weekends, it's not as busy as it is during the week. So if we're looking at 30-40% of the people that have gone back to work downtown, it helps. The food courts are picking up. MTOI just reported their earnings today, and their revenues are up. So the food courts are doing fine, but their downtown retailers do not have that foot traffic they had 2, 3 years ago. Unfortunately, the storefronts on the street fronts, you see a lot of empty locals. The rents have not decreased; the rents have actually increased. So the costs are if they just can't afford it, right? But there's been a major renovation on downtown Eaton Montreal Center. That's been a huge renovation, and that's helping a lot more than the retailers expected. So that's a good sign. So the landlords are reinvesting. The major one being Eaton Montreal, and so that's thankfully that's something that can help the downtown atmosphere for sure.
Now, I guess, for Montreal, the downtown, you obviously went through a difficult time during the pandemic with closures and stuff, and then obviously you didn't have the tourists,
That's right.
coming in. You didn't have students for a while coming to the universities in the downtown. But those two are back.
They
So
are.
I
They
guess
are.
I guess we're waiting for the office thing to come back. Do you think it'll ever come back?
Uh, there's so many debates on that. But getting back to your point, the students are back, the tourists are back. Maybe not as much on the tourist front, but they are back. I was in Old Montreal about a month ago, and you saw the tourists were back, for after the Christmas holidays. But when it comes to office, there's huge debates on that, right? I mean, you hear it all the time. People working 2 days a week, 3 days a week. So if we look at the people that have come back to the office, not a lot of them have come back full time. So even if the offices people are back, they're probably back 2 3 days a week. So the hybrid solution is still in full force, and people have gotten used to that. I think it's helped a lot of the family, conciliation with the kids and going to school and stuff like that. So that's helped that in that front. But we're definitely not at full capacity yet. That's for sure.
Now, despite the challenges that still are there, Montreal still remains a very attractive place for national retailers to expand and for international retailers to come into the market, correct?
Correct. Well, one of the biggest success story, Mario, was Decathlon, right? I mean, Decathlon had chosen Montreal probably as their hotspot, and they're doing extremely well. I mean, I don't have the number of locations off the top of my mind, but coming from a French banner in France, right, and coming to Quebec, it's probably a natural fit. And so Decathlon is having huge success here, and so from that front, Montreal is definitely a cosmopolitan city with a lot of ethnic backgrounds, and so any retailer that comes here has a great specimen of customers that they can work with, right? And it helps them expand across Canada. So I'd gather Toronto and Montreal are probably your two hotspots for retailers trying for new concepts and in Canada.
So tell me a little bit about Montreal itself. Why does it why is it a such an attractive place for especially the first to market international retailers? What do they like about the city?
Well, what they do like about the city is that we have some top national malls here. Like one specifically in the North Shore is Carrefour Laval. We have some very top tier market shopping malls, and so they come here because the cost of retail rent here in Quebec is not as extravagant or expensive as it is in Western Canada or Ontario. So from a fixed cost perspective, it does make sense. From real estate perspective, it does make sense because the opportunities are plentiful. So a lot of new malls sprung up, a lot of new power centers sprung up. We got the new outlets and outside of here in Montreal, and a lot of retailers that I really thought were never going to come to Quebec have made an entrance here. And we have a new mall coming now at the center of Montreal, and that's going to be opening maybe in about a couple of years. And so Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and the high luxury brands have actually will make a presence felt here in Quebec. That's the first, because all we had was Ogilvy store downtown, and we had a shop in a shop. Now they'll have their own real own location, sorry, in a mall, which is going to be very strong presence for them across Canada.
So what is your outlook for Montreal and retail for the rest of this year, Rocco?
I think 2023 is going to be a cautious year. I think a lot of retailers are going to be, skeptical to make any large investments. What I do feel is that a lot of brick and mortar retailers are have to do a lot of work on their stores. They kind of sacrificed their brick and mortar for the e-commerce, right? And rightfully so, right? They wanted to really, ride the wave of e-commerce and people being at home and shopping from home. But a lot of retailers, and I see that in Quebec because I do visit a lot of retailers here in Quebec, and I see that the brick and mortars have suffered. They haven't reinvested into their infrastructures. They haven't reinvested into their store concepts. And I think that's what we're going to see going forward, more towards the end of 2023. I think everybody's going to hold back for the first part of the year. But the second part of the year, you'll see a lot of stores renovating because the e-commerce sales are kind of flattened out and people are back out there. So, the whole customer experience has to be really the real experience, not only on an e-commerce platform, on a website platform, but also when you visit a store. the whole experience for the brand has to be strong, and that's what the retailers have kind of sacrificed. And what I see happening towards the end of the year is that they're going to start reinvesting more of their energy into that focus.
All right, Rocco, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background in the retail sector.
Well, I've been working in retail since the age of 13, so I've been in retail all my life. So yes, just very recently, I started my own consulting practice, E3 Consulting. So basically, I do specialize in retail. I do speak to a lot of retailers. I do speak to a lot of CEOs of retail national brands, and that's my forte. So on a strategic front, I help them, anything to do with their strategy, and to do with their vision, anything to do to increase their revenues, control their costs, have a 3-year plan. So that's what I do. And I also help, small, medium-sized businesses, not necessarily retail, but anybody that can benefit from my expertise. I've been across North America. I've visited a lot of stores, a lot of businesses. So I want to give back, and definitely want to give back some of my expertise that I can help them with.
Now, looking in your background, I noticed that you have experience and years with Rona, correct?
Yes, yes, I was vice president for Rona for numerous years, and I was there for about 8, 9 years. So had some great fun at Rona, very entrepreneurial vibe. I was there when Lowe's did the acquisition. So
Yeah.
I did go through the Lowe's acquisition and Lowe's transition. Then I left, and now, as you know, Lowe's has exited Canada, and Rona's back to where it was. So we're back to our roots.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, I'm just curious about that move. What do you think that's going to mean for the Rona's, I guess, brand across the country?
Well, I think the brand is very strong. I mean, the brand is very strong across Canada. I think with the Lowe's acquisition, it actually made them stronger in terms of brand. I think what Rona is going to benefit from this is that I think their entrepreneurial vibe is going to come back. Rona is very nimble, was very agile. We
Yeah.
we adapted to the market very quickly, and I think that's what's going to make their success going forward. I think nothing against Lowe's, but Lowe's was more of a corporate structure, cookie cutter approach, whereas Rona is very different store formats, and you have to be very agile. You got to be very quick on your decisions and adapt to the market. So I think they have their place in Canada, and I wish them all the best for sure.
All right. Thanks, Rocco, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Mario, for having me.
All right. That was Rocco Matteo, managing partner of E3 Consulting in Montreal. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, senior news editor with Retail Insider. Thanks for joining us today.